it's a miracle. I changed my mind about something that hardly ever happens. I'm so stubborn. So I never really was into the 1920s thing. I guess that comes from living in Germany. Everything in Germany from 1910 up to the Cold War is just about Hitler. In the history books, it's all just, even World War One is just this thing that led up to World War Two. So it gets incredibly tedious to only talk about one subject. So the entire fashion period just wasn't really my cup of tea. I got instant bored as soon as that came up. So, and I didn't really like the lines either. I'm more into the corset-y stuff usually, even though it's really interesting. It was the time when Coco Chanel got started pretty much and started getting really famous, and just the fact that they didn't have to wear corsets anymore is really fascinating. But I think my negative perception of the period was fueled, for one thing, by this really terrible Charmed episode where they travel back in time and they land in the 20s, and it was just so cheap. And I think it's the cheapness that I didn't like. And then there's this thing, whenever someone says, hey, let's make a 20s party, or how about a 20s costume, the thing you imagine, and I hope you will forgive me for my make-do drawing here that I did really quickly. This is what you imagine, and this is what you can buy when you look for 20s costumes online. It's this typical flapper thing as you imagine it. You've got the dress with the strings or the beads or whatever that's kind of flapping around, and you've got the necklace and headband, possibly with sequins and a feather, and then you can choose between gloves and a feather boa, or maybe both. I don't know. And this looks kind of like a really racist Native American thing, by the way. So yeah, that's weird. And this is what every single 20s costume you can buy online for cheap Halloween parties looks like. And there's something I abhor about cheapness. Which is why you will never see anything on my channel that kind of has the MacGyver approach to things. Like this, how to make a ball gown out of an old towel and 2 safety pins kind of thing. I don't really like it. I think there should be a certain quality behind what you craft with your hands, not this cheap, how to make things as quick as possible to little effect approach. I'm not really into that. So I came to change my mind about the 20s fashion, and the reason you can see here. I got this book from my grandma. It's a German, I guess a women's magazine somehow, and it's from 1926, 1927, and it has all these dresses. It's the entire 2 years is in this book basically, and I just skipped through it, and it was a really good magazine. I wish they had magazines like that nowadays, because there was very little advertisement and many interesting articles. You won't believe it. In a women's magazine they had something about fashions in the past decades. They have these dresses, and these dresses are not for sale. You can see there's a number down here, and up here there are sewing instructions. So this is quite amazing. This entire book is filled. Every 10 pages there's fashion somewhere, and there are sewing instructions which are quite detailed about how to make these dresses. So technically I've got an entire book of 20s fashion that I could in theory make for myself. And the actual reason I changed my mind about the 20s was this dress that you can see in the middle with the black lace. I was skipping through the pages and I wasn't really interested in what I was seeing, even fashion-wise. It didn't really faze me, so to speak. And I saw this dress, and I don't know whether you've ever had this experience that you see a dress and you fall in love with it instantly. And from that point onward, you're kind of obsessed with it, and you think about it way too much, and you wonder how you can create it for yourself because you have to make it yours. I guess that's a bit sick. But anyway, I don't know. If you've ever felt this way about any dress, feel free to leave a comment. I'd be really interested in what dress triggered this feeling in you, whether that's ever happened or whether I'm just weird. Yeah, anyway, so I saw this dress and I was a little confused why I liked it so much and why I had this feeling about this dress, because I wasn't really into the entire fashion era. But I looked at it and look at it. It speaks of a kind of elegance that I wasn't connecting with the 20s before. But then when I looked into the period, this elegance and this decadence and this quality is really what the era was all about. Most of those dresses here are described to be made out of silk fabric. And if you know anything about silk, it's terrible to clean. It's really delicate. It can be ruined very, very easily. So it was all about basically wasting a lot of money. And I hadn't really thought about this fashion area this way before. So a little bit about this dress. If I ever find the right fabrics for it, I'm definitely going to recreate it, and I'm definitely going to share it with you. It's one layer of silvery grey silk fabric, I think. Down there is the description. I think at some point I can share it with you. So it's this silver grey fabric, and on top of that is a layer of black lace, and you can see here that's a little part where there is no black lace, so that the layer underneath is showing. I think that's really nice. And then this here is black silk, just the same as up here. And I don't know, there's something about this dress that really captivated me. And that's really what made me look at the 20s in a different way. So for example, I took out the second issue of my fashion book that I hardly ever touch because I don't really like the fashions from the 20th century. And I checked out some of the 20s dresses that are in here, and you can see here this is a very similar thing to what this girl in The Great Gatsby is wearing. It's chiffon. I think, no, this is a fabric called voile. V-O-I-L-E. Anyway, it's looks very similar to chiffon. The one on the right is actual silk chiffon. If you've ever worked with this fabric, it's terrible to sew. And it tears so easily. So this is one really, really decadent, really, really delicate dress. And those were dresses that I completely overlooked before. I mean, I had this book the entire time, but I wasn't really... I was looking at it without really seeing it, if you get my meaning. And I think it's really amazing how experiences like that can completely shift your point of view. Then yeah, The Great Gatsby. I'm still not going to watch that movie, I think, but this dress is really nice. And I really, really, really like that kind of embroidery. I think I'll have to try that out sometime. Shouldn't be so hard. Anyway, so that's it from me. If you've ever had a similar experience, if you've completely changed your mind about something you thought you didn't like before because of some experience, please share your experience in the comments. I'd be really interested. And if you've ever completely obsessed over a dress that you fell in love with, then please share that with me too, because I'm curious whether I'm the only person who has ever experienced that. Because I think I'm not. Anyway, that's it. Bye.